This is Northern Light for Thursday, July 16th. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler. A community ceramic studio in Keeseville is opening for the first time this weekend, and its owner says it's a way to bring people together.
I could just get a kiln and do ceramics on my own. I just don't think it would feel as fulfilling, and it would disconnect me from the community side of art, which I think is so important, especially locally.
Also on the show, Long Lake has found a way to help support its work, selling its used books in support of the public library.
We have, of course, your fiction. We have a limited nonfiction section. We have the cookbook section. We're trying to grow a children's section.
And the summer's steamy temperatures have been getting to us all, including our farm animals. Kitty O'Neill joins us this morning for a closer look at how the heat affects livestock in the North Country. All that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us. Northern Light is supported by Cronin's Golf Resort, a regional destination for golfing, dining, and lodging in the Southern Adirondacks. Details at croninsgolfresort.com. And the Glenn and Carol Pearsall Adirondack Foundation now accepting grant applications from Adirondack not-for-profits until August 31st. Details at pearsallfoundation.org. This is Northern Light. I'm Catherine Wheeler. A statewide air quality health advisory is in effect today due to smoke from Canadian wildfires and high temperatures. The air quality is forecast to reach unhealthy levels in several regions of the state, including Jefferson and southern Herkimer counties. The air quality in the rest of the North Country is forecast to be unhealthy for sensitive groups. Folks in those areas who have underlying health conditions are advised to make outdoor activities shorter and less intense and to take breaks. New Yorkers in places with unhealthy air quality are encouraged to avoid spending time outdoors if possible. If you must go outside, don't overexert yourself and wear a well-fitting mask. Hikers and others recreating outdoors are advised to postpone strenuous activities. You can check the air quality in your area by going to airnow.gov. Federal immigration agents have detained 2 more people in Lake Placid. The Adirondack Daily Enterprise reports one man was detained last Tuesday while taking out the trash at a local hotel. According to a local immigration advocacy group, agents in street clothes surrounded him before taking him into custody. Another man was detained the day before while working outside a local business. ICE has not responded to requests for information about either arrest. Local immigration advocates say both men are now being held at the Batavia Detention Center near Buffalo. The arrests come just weeks after ICE detained 21 roofing and restaurant workers in Lake Placid and Saranac Lake. President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill makes a lot of changes to programs like SNAP. A new report finds one of those changes would put local taxpayers in New York on the hook for more than $160 million. Samuel King with the New York Public News Network reports that counties are hoping for a reprieve.
New York is one of the few states where counties administer SNAP, so that means they will bear the brunt of a change that shifts more of the cost for the food program away from Washington. Greene County Administrator Sean Groden says the change means $250,000 in his county alone, so that could make budgeting difficult in future years.
I got to pinpoint why I'm making draconian changes to programs or layoffs or hiring freezes or et cetera, all the options that I may have. We lay it on the table.
New York State Association of Counties Executive Director Stephen Aquario says the state could also face a $1 billion penalty beginning in 2027 because of error rates in SNAP benefits, another cost that could be borne by the counties.
We're trying to seek a delay in implementation of this massive change in this massive law that was passed 1 year ago. There's no reason why we can't get a 2-year delay.
The association sought to have the state pick up more of the costs during this year's legislative session, but that effort was unsuccessful. In Albany, I'm Samuel King for the New York Public News Network.
Governor Kathy Hochul says she has mixed feelings about making daylight savings time permanent. Jimmy Vielkind reports it's a move that could put her at odds with a key constituency.
Who knew changing clocks could be political? The U.S. House just voted to make daylight savings time permanent, allowing for more daylight in evening hours during the winter. Governor Hochul told Fox 5's Good Day New York that she's still thinking about whether she supports that change.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
I don't know. I got to think this out because I don't want it darker longer, but I also love waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and it's bright out.
One group that opposes the change, Orthodox Jews. They say the end of daylight savings time would push the start of morning prayers past 9 o'clock during winter, making it difficult to pray and make it to work. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
In the past couple of years, many North Country towns have become home to a growing local art scene. New murals dot the streets of Ticonderoga and Glens Falls. In Malone, the downtown artist cellar hosts gallery space, plus community arts events and workshops. And in Keeseville, just south of Plattsburgh, there's a summer arts festival. And soon, there will be a community ceramics studio. Anna Williams-Bergen has this North Country at Work story.
Kind of insane. That's how Molly Ward describes the leap of faith she's taking to start a community ceramic studio in Keeseville and renovate a historic building to do it.
There is an active mineral spring in the basement, which is charming in theory and poses some difficulties when it comes to moisture and like water in the basement, stuff that generally you don't want. So there have been some like big surprises in this renovation process.
Third Space Ceramics is still very much in process. Ward is opening the building to the public for the first time this weekend, and she hopes to give people a taste of the special energy that a community studio creates.
I could just like get a kiln and do ceramics on my own. I just don't think it would feel as fulfilling, and it would disconnect me from the community side of art, which I think is so important, especially locally.
For the last couple years, Ward managed a ceramics studio at the Strand in Plattsburgh. She says it gave her the experience and the confidence to go out on her own. Plus, as a ceramicist herself, it's practical.
Ceramics is prohibitively expensive on a small scale, so if somebody had to like buy their own kiln just to try it out, that would be really intense. And so the studio also offers that, where it's like shared infrastructure. We're kind of carrying the load together.
Ward is 30. She grew up in nearby Jay in the Adirondacks. And she says that doing something like this, going out on a limb, opening her own business, it would only be possible here in the North Country. She says that support from this tight-knit community means there's actually more opportunity here.
Maybe if I was in a big city, I'd have to be like hustling so much harder to start a business. The only way I'm able to like start this studio is because I have a whole network of people behind me and I have family support. And my dad and my fiance are doing most of the renovations on this building.
Ward makes ceramics, but she works on a pretty small scale. She's not pumping out tons of plates and mugs like a factory. It's artsy. She says it's not the kind of thing that makes you a ton of money, and she still needs her day job at a jewelry shop.
I can't imagine being an artist to the scale that like I could pay all my bills and then have a family and do all of that. So I think maybe it is being in the North Country where cost of living is a little bit more manageable and where I just like have so many connections where things seem to fall in place a lot easier.
The studio will be open to the public for the first time this Saturday during the Keeseville Community Arts Festival so that people can check it out and attend a free ceramics workshop.
It won't be like completely finished. It'll just be like put back together and like not ugly on the inside.
When things are finished, Ward's goal is to have a gathering space where people can find community through a shared hobby.
I think if I imagine it, like maybe it's 5 or 6 people sitting around working on their separate projects, chatting a little bit, maybe somebody's playing nice music.
She's excited to spread her love of ceramics by teaching classes and running clay camps for kids. Starting this business is also about building the lifestyle she wants.
My goal is to be able to have a more flexible life where I can have a family soon and still be able to do all these things I love and still be able to teach.
Growing up in this area as an artsy kid, Ward says there weren't a ton of creative opportunities for her outside of school. She's hoping her studio can change that.
I feel really excited about being able to offer something to a kid who maybe is how I was as a kid, who that's what I wanted to do. That's what I was excited about.
Ward says that, having grown up here, she's especially excited to make space for people in the art world she cares so much about. For North Country Public Radio's North Country at Work project, I'm Anna Williams-Bergen in Keeseville.
You can check out Third Space Pottery at the Keeseville Community Arts Festival this Saturday. The studio will be open for tours and a free ceramics workshop. There are lots more activities, workshops, and musical performances to check out around town as well. Ward's interview was recorded at a public collection event in Keeseville. It's part of North Country at Work's Next Generation project, which highlights stories from the region's young workers. If you have a story in mind, we want to hear it. Just text the word NEXT to 315-978-6277. You can also email us at work@ncpr.org. You're listening to North Country Public Radio. You're listening to Northern Light only here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:12. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler. Stick around. Kitty O'Neill is in the studio this morning to update us on how North Country farms are faring this summer so far. That's coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light. But first, music from the Bee Children in Canton. Northern Light is supported by St. Lawrence Nurseries Potsdam, providing the North Country with cold, hardy fruit and nut trees for over 100 years, slngrow.com. And by Seacom Credit Union, serving the financial needs of people throughout northern New York and northwestern Vermont, in person, online at seacom.org, and on smartphones. NCPR is a media sponsor for a performance by the Howard Levy 4 this Sunday, July 19th at 7 o'clock on the Norwood Village Green. Levy is a two-time Grammy Award-winning harmonica player whose quartet performs a mix of jazz, Latin, world music, and blues. Attendance is free, but donations are accepted. More information is available at ncpr.org/calendar. Public libraries are always raising money to pay for everything, from staff salaries to copy machines and more. The public library in Long Lake hosts art auctions and holiday parties as fundraisers. And for the past few summers, it's also been selling used books. Emily Russell reports.
In the parking lot behind the public library in Long Lake, there's a little brown building. It looks like your standard garden shed. But step inside and you'll notice that the floor is painted a bright red and books are lining the walls.
It's a little shed, but it works perfect.
That's Donna Smith. She's on the Friends of the Long Lake Library Board and is volunteering here today. We're standing in the book nook. It's kind of like a tiny secondhand bookstore.
We have, of course, your fiction, and we get a lot of donations of those books. We have a limited nonfiction section. We have the cookbook section. We're trying to grow a children's section.
They also have inventory that goes beyond traditional paperback and hardcover books.
We have audio books, CDs, and some Adirondack books, which are usually a hit.
Think trail guides and books about Adirondack history. The Book Nook is all volunteer-based, and it was built by volunteers. The library's treasurer constructed the shed and does all the repair work. Smith and others pitched in, too.
A couple of us did the painting, and we did the outside and the floor.
The Book Nook first opened last summer. It was staffed on the weekends, but Smith says Sundays were surprisingly slow. There's a bank right next to the library. So this summer, the team of volunteers behind the Book Nook shifted their strategy.
Since we didn't have much traffic on Sundays, we decided to open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days that the bank's open.
On those days, plus on Saturdays, the Book Nook is open from 10 to 2. I'm here on a busy weekend in Long Lake during the Great Adirondack Garage Sale, so a lot of folks are out and about.
Hi!
Smith greets some of her friends who pop in for a visit.
So you got Book Nook duty for the garage sale weekend?
Yes, I said I'm going to get hours in because I'm not here in the winter.
Like a lot of folks in Long Lake, Smith is a summer resident. She's been coming here with her husband for 50 years. She says it's a peaceful place to spend the warmer months and to catch up on some reading. The Book Nook is open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays until Labor Day. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio, Long Lake.
Officials have released the identities of the 3 people who died in a plane crash in Franklin County on Monday. State police say 70-year-old Gabriel Jasper of New Jersey was piloting the private plane when it crashed shortly after takeoff from Adirondack Regional Airport. It was about 100 feet in the air when communication with the plane was lost. According to the Albany Times-Union, Jasper's passengers were his daughter, 33-year-old Gabrielle Hillgrube, and granddaughter, 2-year-old Juliana. All 3 were pronounced dead at the scene. State police say a search crew found the twin-engine plane, a 1976 Piper Aerostar, destroyed and on fire in a remote wooded area near Harrietstown, not far from the airport. The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating the cause of the crash. A man from New York City drowned in Lake George Tuesday afternoon. According to the Warren County Sheriff's Office, 30-year-old Noel Samity and 5 friends had rented a pontoon boat for the day. Some of them were swimming about a half-mile north of Green Island when Samity went underwater shortly before 1 p.m. Divers found and recovered his body in about 36 feet of water. The Lake George Park Commission and State Police Aviation Unit assisted at the scene. An apartment complex in Potsdam is getting a major investment from a state housing program. Evergreen Apartments was awarded nearly $60 million from the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Program. That money will be spent rehabbing 12 apartment buildings in Potsdam that have 100 affordable units. The funds will also go toward the construction of 4 new apartment buildings that will add nearly 90 new housing units to the area. All of the properties are owned and operated by the Village of Potsdam Housing Authority. They provide apartments to people who earn at or below 80% of the area's median income. The nearly $60 million in funding for the project is part of Governor Hochul's 5-year, $25 billion housing plan to create or preserve 100,000 affordable homes around the state. And this month marks 100 years since President Calvin Coolidge spent the summer in the Adirondacks. Coolidge set up his summer White House at White Pine Camp near Paul Smith's in 1926. Coolidge was an avid angler, and presented New York's governor with a northern pike during his visit to the camp in July of 1926. A week of centennial programming began on Sunday. Reenactors will portray that exchange this Friday afternoon at Paul Smith College, and the final event will be a ceremonial send-off on Saturday. Coolidge spent a total of 10 weeks at White Pine Camp in 1926. This is NCPR. You're listening to Northern Light, only here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:20. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler. In just a minute, we have Kitty O'Neill updating us on North Country agriculture. And after that, Bird Note is coming up at 8:42. Taking a look at the weather right before There may be some smoke throughout your day today, and that should be starting to cool off temperature-wise. Highs in the mid-70s to low 80s throughout the North Country, and there are some possible afternoon showers. The smoke should start to dissipate overnight with lows dropping in the low to mid-50s. And tomorrow, the sun should be out with highs in the mid to upper 70s. Today, though, the entire North Country is under an air quality alert due to smoke from Canadian wildfires burning in Ontario. The air quality is forecast to reach unhealthy levels in parts of Jefferson and southern Herkimer counties today. The rest of the North Country is forecast to be unhealthy for sensitive groups. Folks in those areas who have underlying health conditions are advised to make outdoor activities shorter and less intense and to take breaks when possible. Tonight, the sunset in Wanakina is at 8:40, and the moon, if you have a chance to look up, is a waxing crescent at 7% of full. At last check, it is 68 in Canton, 71 in Watertown and Elizabethtown, 62 in Lowville and Lake Placid, 69 in Plattsburgh, and 67 in Malone. Well, summer is in full swing in the North Country, and it's been plenty hot. And while we can turn up the AC or head to a swimming hole to cool down, livestock aren't as lucky. And for more on how the heat affects our farm animals, we're joined by Kitty O'Neill. She's an agricultural climate resiliency specialist with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and she joins us every month to catch us up on what's happening on North Country farms. Good morning, Kitty.
Good morning.
So it's been pretty hot and stuffy so far this week. How do animals fare in this kind of weather?
About like we do, I would say, right? We feel heat and humidity in much the same way that livestock do. In fact, for livestock, we use a metric called temperature humidity index, which is calculated from hourly temperature and relative humidity into one number. It's different from our feels like or heat index number, but it's really getting at the same thing. And that number is used to sort of gauge how stressful all different species of livestock may feel during a hot streak. And all the species have different thresholds for what they can tolerate, right? So, for example, dairy cattle, very important here in the North Country, they're probably the most sensitive livestock class. And they begin feeling some heat stress when the THI, the temperature humidity index, is as low as 68, which is around, let's say, 70 degrees and 60% humidity or something like that. It's really, to us, it feels fine.
A nice day for us.
It's a nice day for us, but
bad day for cows.
Their comfort zone is a lot chillier than where our comfort zone is. So they're feeling stress when we're feeling kind of pretty good. And so when they feel stressed, they begin to eat less, move around less, right? Sounds familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what does that do to them? What does the heat do to animals?
Well, it causes them to reduce feed intake and to move around less. Eventually they begin panting. All these things, they sweat if they can. All species can't in the same way. And all of those things cost energy, right? So instead of, they're eating less, but they're also spending energy on dissipating heat from their bodies that they normally wouldn't have to within their comfort zone. And so they end up producing less milk and growing more slowly, having smaller gains. And if the heat continues, another way to gauge heat stress is whether or not the nighttime temperatures allow them to some relief. If we have a couple, 3-4 days in a row and the nighttime temperatures don't decrease below, say, 70, that really compounds and multiplies the problem. Different species have different responses to this, too. For example, I was mentioning earlier, the panting can cause something called alkalosis, where the pH of your bloodstream actually increases. That causes different problems for different species. It reduces meat quality for some poultry and meat animals. It reduces eggshell strength in chickens. And then, of course, if the heat stress is severe enough, we can even have animal mortality. And we've seen that in some really extreme cases in the West in the last few years.
So it really does have an effect on animals.
Absolutely.
Why is this something we want to monitor, and how do we do it?
So there's a lot of effort actually put into trying to help animals remain in their comfort zone on farms. Grazing farms have begun adding trees back into pastures even for some shade, among other advantages. On a dairy farm, there will be enormous high volume fans across the freestall barns hanging from the ceiling, kind of directed downward at the animal level to move air. Movement of air always helps animals and people dissipate heat. We like fans too when it's hot, right? They may even have some misting systems in front of the fans, which is it allows some evaporative cooling to happen. It actually cools the air. The mist isn't for the animals, it's to cool the air before it touches the animals. And then in extreme cases where the relative humidity is too high for the evaporative cooling to work, which we do run into here in the Northeast, we have soaker systems, which will actually drip cold water onto the head and shoulders of a pig in a stall, or across a group of cows waiting at the front of a milking parlor, in places where that's permitted or where it works, where it's logistically correct. And then there's some animals that, like poultry, chickens that either are layers or broilers, turkeys. They have a higher heat tolerance in some cases, but and you don't really spray water on chickens necessarily. You could imagine that wouldn't be the greatest, but you rely on tunnel ventilation, which is, you see some barns that have like a whole huge stack of fans in one end of the building to draw air through from the other end and kind of create a really small breeze from one end to the other to help with heat dissipation.
Mm-hmm. So, Kitty, you've been analyzing about 30 years worth of data on heat stress on animals. What have you found using that much data over time?
So the other thing that I didn't mention, when we calculate these THI, temperature humidity index, the third factor that's really important is how much time are animals exposed to those stressful temperatures. And so I collected 30 years worth of hourly data, which is a huge spreadsheet, and for 12 or 13 different locations across the state of New York. And for every single location, the number of hours, annual average number of hours that animals are exposed to stressful conditions, it's noisy, but it's increasing for every single location. And it's increasing more consistently and strongly here in northern New York, along the southern tier, Hudson Valley, Long Island, and then a little bit less strongly, I guess, in western New York and central New York, but it's going up everywhere. And the number of nights that don't allow relief or recovery from the heat, that's going up everywhere as well. So, and what's driving this increase in heat stress trend over 30 years is more how much time we're spending in those stressful conditions, more than how extremely hot those conditions are so far over the 30 years that I looked at.
What kind of effect could this trend, this data have on our ag industries? We're so dependent on this industry economically in the state of New York and especially in the North Country.
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's what drove me to look into this, right? Because here in the Northeast, we're heavily reliant upon various types of livestock production because we're well suited to it. Our weather has been conducive. We have a good landscape for this, as opposed to like corn and soybean row crops in the Midwest. But if our weather is shifting to be warmer, that sort of takes away one of our distinct advantages. So farms have already adapted to this in many ways by having these big fan systems and misters and soakers and cooling plates in the floor for gestating swine and things like that. We're going to have to just pay more attention to all those systems. Hopefully we can figure out ways to make them more efficient because they do cost energy and therefore money. And we'll have to just keep innovating in that same direction, I hope.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you more about adaptation because we know that temperatures are predicted to rise even more in the coming decades. Right. And as you mentioned, it's not just so much about extreme temperatures on one day, getting hotter, but it's a prolonged period of time.
More time.
How do farmers adapt to this?
Yeah, well, the cooling systems, and then bigger picture, we do have to mitigate climate change. We do have to, and we're making a lot of progress on that too, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from various aspects of not only agriculture, but everything else we do everywhere in the state of New York and other places. That's going to take time, certainly, to turn things around. But every opportunity, we're going to have to think about where water comes from, making sure we have enough at all times of the year and not have dry wells, right? Protect against things like that even, too, for animals' comfort. So everything, adapt and innovate.
Important information for our region and state. Kitty O'Neill is an agriculture climate resiliency specialist with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and she joins us every month to talk about North Country farms. Thanks, Kitty.
Thank you.
That's it for the show today. Stick around for more news from NPR just ahead. I'm Catherine Wheeler. Be well.